Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video, which is going to take us to around the 22nd of February, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles running to around a couple of weeks. Very rapidly now, within the 10-day to 2-week time frame anyway, we are drawing towards a close for not only this February, but also for this winter. Of course, February a little bit of a shorter month, although we have got an extra day this year. But very rapidly now, within the sort of 2-week time frame anyway, we are winding down the clock very quickly now towards the end of the winter. We haven't really had much winter, although past couple of days have been a little bit colder, and especially so in the north. We've had some snow, really snow laying on the ground across some parts of northern Britain. Hasn't been hardly anything though on lowland southern England, and it doesn't look like there will be in the next week to 10 days either. But I'll bring you up to date with all of the latest developments in a moment. Just to say that 5-day forecast has been released. Going to be another unsettled 5 days to come, and all eyes going to be on Storm Dennis, which will be that'll be rattling through, I think, on Saturday. So Saturday could be another pretty wild day. Probably not quite as bad as Storm Kira, but nevertheless we're still looking at another named storm bringing a significant blow and more heavy rain on Saturday. Have a look at 5-day forecast and see what's going on with that. We're going to start in the stratosphere. Both want to bring you up to date what's happening in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA over the North Pole in the stratosphere. To begin this video, so the grey line shows the trend for this time of the year. Of course, we're in a warming trend at the moment in terms of the temperature in the stratosphere at 10 HPA over the North Pole. Temperature should be getting milder now, and that should carry on right way through into the summer, where we reach a peak around July time, and then start to drop away again later in the summer and through to the autumn. So at this point of the year, temperatures should be lifting up. The black line shows how the temperature has been performing at 10 HPA through this season. So let's just raise that up a little bit. Shows how temperature should be performing at 10 HPA through this season. And we can see that, yes, we've had a bit of a warming of the stratosphere, going up to around minus 30. Like in the beginning of February, from a very cold sort of base down here. But temperatures have fallen back again, actually, over the past few days. So now we are a little bit colder than average again in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA. We're back down to around minus 60, and that is below average. It's, again, below average for where you'd expect us to be at this point of the year. Should be around there, and actually we're down here. So once again, temperatures are pretty cold there at 10 HPA at the top of the stratosphere. If we go a bit lower down to 30 HPA, it's even colder there. Look at this. Very, very substantially cold. Averages have been pretty much throughout the whole of winter, really. A few days ago, we did lift temperature up a little bit. Went just a little bit above average a few days ago. But generally, through this winter, been really, really cold, below minus 80. And where we are right now is, again, just there. So, again, we're somewhere close to around minus 80, and we should be here. So, both at 10 and 30 HPA in the stratosphere, we remain colder than you would expect. And this is all indicative of a very, very strong and intense polar vortex. And we know everything else has been going on through this season in terms of the strength of zonality, the strength of the Westerlies, and so on. So these are how the temperatures are being forecast the next couple of weeks at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over North Pole by the latest GFS from meteoseal.fr. The blue colours are those cold temperatures, again down to around minus 60 now again over the top of the pole. So these are the cold temperatures in the stratosphere over the North Pole. If we run through, we can see what's going to happen, what's forecast happen. Temperature's going to go a little bit colder, actually. We're going to go down to around minus 72 over the top of the pole. So on this scale, that will take us, let's go back to 10 HPA. On this scale, minus 72. We'll see that black line going down to around there. So we've got further to drop with this black line. We will be, that's right, if that forecast is right, by sort of early next week, we're going to be quite a lot below the grey line again, quite a lot below trend. Anyway, we carry on running through, and those cold temperatures continue at 10 HPA as we go into the second half of February. No changes there. And then running into the extended range with this GFS run. Again, the blue colours just remain routed over the Arctic and over North Pole. Little bit of warming occurring again around the Pacific and sort of the Pacific Canadian side of the Arctic. But overall, again, it looks like up until the end of February now, we are not going to see a sudden stratospheric warming. So some winters never have a sudden stratospheric warming. And this is going to be one of those winters now, by the look of it. It looks like this winter will never have a sudden stratospheric warming at any point through it. And quite frustrating, because the GFS has generally been sort of flirting with the idea of a sudden stratospheric warming on and off through outwards, right at the very start of this winter, actually. At the beginning of December, there was some GFS runs showing a sudden stratospheric warming, but never coming into the reliable time frame, never being firmed up on with other model output. And so it just looks like we're going to keep these cold temperatures going from beginning to end now through this winter, except for that little warming that occurred there. Back at the beginning of February, we did have a modest warming of the stratosphere then, just short, I think, of what could be classed as a genuine sudden stratospheric warming. But anyway, cold temperature set to continue, and if that's right, then this is going to carry on producing a very strong zonal wind as well. So this is from weatherliscool.com. This is depicting the strength of the zonal winds through this season, and we've got forecasts in there as well. So the most important line, of course, is going to be the black line. That's the trend line for the year. And, of course, again, at this point of the year, the zonal wind should be weakening. So as the temperature at 10 HPA in the stratosphere is getting stronger, as this grey line is lifting up and the temperature is warming up in the stratosphere as that's happening, so the zonal winds should be getting weaker. And what we're actually seeing at the moment is a further strengthening of zonal winds. So the blue line shows how zonal winds have been performing through this season. They did go weaker than average at the beginning of December, but other than that, generally we have had a stronger than average zonal wind pretty much around middle of December to where we are right now. At times, record-breakingly so. Back in middle of January, had a record-breakingly strong zonal wind. And although the zonal wind did drop out through the opening days of February, it's strengthening up again. And that's where we are currently with the zonal wind. So we've got a strong zonal wind again. And if the GFS ensembles, which are these green lines, are correct, then the zonal wind is actually going to go almost to record-breaking levels again. Date records, anyway. In sort of just after the middle of February, in around a week's time. So very, very strong zonal wind continues. After that, it does drop out again. So been very much up and down with the zonal wind, but always averaging above average. So you see we lift the zonal wind up there, and then we drop it down a bit, but then it takes off again just there, and then drops, and then takes off again, and then drops quite a bit there for early February, but we're in one of those lifting up phases again, and the zonal wind is going to become very, very strong in the coming days. The 3 pink and 1 blue line from the CFS V2, they are showing that once this spike in the zonal wind is complete around the middle of February, we'll then see zonal winds gradually dropping out, but not going into reverse. This is a reversal of the zonal winds just here, and that's what you get when you have a sudden stratospheric warming. Not going into reverse now, not being forecast to go into reverse now until into April. It's not until April that the zonal wind is going to reverse, and that would of course be associated with just the seasonal drop in the strength of the zonal wind. Eventually this polar vortex of doom that we've had from beginning to end from this winter, eventually this polar vortex will sort of die, and it will happen. It doesn't look like it's going to happen for a sudden stratospheric warming. It looks like it's going to happen actually just through the seasonal change from winter to spring, and just a very, very gradual, slow weakening of the zonal wind until eventually, in the polar vortex, and eventually it just sort of dies to death a little bit by the time we get into the middle and latter part of the spring. But for now, zonal winds are very strong. The temperature at 10 HPA is colder than average, and this is all indicative of a continuation of a strong zonal flow and an intense polar vortex. So we know, we looked at the Arctic oscillation yesterday, I won't go over it all again, but we know that a few days ago the Arctic oscillation did go to record-breaking strong levels. We had our strongest ever recorded Arctic oscillation a couple of days ago. I think it's the 9th of February. We're dropping that away now because you can't maintain that level indefinitely, but even as it drops down, it is going to stay stronger than average, going to keep the Arctic oscillation sort of positive and quite significantly so. And then into the second half of February, this period just here, the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to remain strongly positive. There's no sign of an end to this positive phase of the Arctic oscillation, which is all connected to the cold temperatures at 10 HPA, to the record strong at times polar vortex, and it's all interlinked. It's all telling us that the westerlies and the polar vortex are set to continue. At the same time, the Northern Atlantic oscillation also being forecast to remain in its positive phase. And so overall, there's no sign of any substantial or significant change in the broad setup as we look ahead towards like the latter stages of February. We're going to keep these conditions going. Atlantic-driven weather is set to continue, and westerlies are going to carry on powering through, and that's what we've got coming up in the days ahead. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Northampton. Looking at Northampton today, local to me. So starting off quite chilly. It is a bit cold today. We have been pulling the air out of Canada and Greenland over the past couple of days. So we have had some snow up in the northern half of the country, but from now onwards, really, the temperature is lifting up. It's going to get milder into the weekend. This period just here is of course, where we've got Storm Dennis coming through. Beyond that, goes a little bit cooler again later in the weekend into the early part of next week. We're going to bring the air back out of Canada and Greenland again for the early part of next week. And then back up we go with the upper air temperatures once again as we go into the second week of February. Those upper air temperatures become quite a bit milder once again. Precipitation-wise, plenty of rainfall spikes. We've got a bit of wet weather coming up tonight into tomorrow morning. That area of precipitation spikes just there, associated with Storm Dennis. A little bit drier as we go a bit colder early next week, and then more rain to come later next week. Possibly a little bit of a drying trend there for the final week of February. That is going to be this period just here, final week of February. Might have a little bit of drier weather, but it's a long way off that, and even then it's not particularly conclusive. Temperature anomalies from the 12th to 20th of February are going to be a little bit milder than average for England and Wales, a little bit colder than average Scotland and Northern Ireland. I suspect these will start to trend milder again in the days ahead. Precipitation anomalies remain as they have been so often this winter, a little bit above average, or for some areas quite significantly above average for the 12th to 20th of February. That's how the GFS is looking for Saturday. So Storm Dennis powering up in the Atlantic, all of these pink and purple colours. That's very intense low pressure, and we're going to be seeing a bit of a battering again through Saturday. And in Sunday, wild weather continues, and it goes a bit cold as well on Sunday, so showers probably become wintry in the north. This is all covered by a 5-day forecast, of course. Monday, we'll see the air coming out of Greenland and could bring wintry showers again, particularly to northern, western parts of the country. Same situation, really, for Tuesday. Then into the middle of the second half next week, heights begin to rise a bit to the south. Low pressure starts to push in from the Atlantic, so it stays unsettled. In the second half next week, it just begins to get a little bit milder again. And up to day 10, that's how we're looking. So having a go at raising some higher pressure to our northeast across Scandinavia, but not really pulling it off. Actually, it's this ridge, as it has been throughout this winter, really, across France, Spain and Portugal, that's keeping much of Western Europe in westerly winds, combined with below pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland, and the very strong jet stream, taints polar vortex, and it all keeps powering these westerlies through from off the Atlantic. Into the extended range, we keep those westerlies going. Late on, we begin to pull down a slightly colder northwesterly again on Friday, 28th of February. But, of course, that's 2 weeks away. Atlantic driven weather rules the roost right way to the end of the month. GM looks like that. So, again, looking rather stormy and ominous for Saturday. Sunday looks very unsettled too. Monday and Tuesday, cold, windy and showery. Northwesterly winds coming out of Greenland. And then into the second half of next week, just raising pressure a little bit to our south across sort of Germany, Low Countries, France. Perhaps bringing some dry weather to England and Wales through the second half of next week. But potentially turning very mild there by day 10, which is Saturday, 22nd of February, wafting those winds up from the southwest. And then the ECMWF, again, it's rather stormy for Saturday, courtesy of Storm Dennis. Into Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, we're into cold, showery northwesterly winds. They carry on into middle next week before perhaps high pressure begins to rise to our south again. We start to bring up some slightly milder southwesterlies. Moving up to day 10, again looking wet, windy and stormy there at day 10 with the ECM, which is the 22nd of February, but also looking mild with winds coming in from west or from the southwest too. This is the precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from Tameteo.com. So still winter showers are piling into the north and west today. Overnight tonight, rain spreads across the country. Mainly rain for England and Wales, a little bit of hail snow across mountainous areas of Wales, a little bit more for the far north of England into southern Scotland, possibly for a time across Northern Ireland too. By midday tomorrow, the rain is clearing away from eastern parts of England. Does hang back though across southern and southeast Scotland, northeast England. There might be quite a covering of snow across southeastern Scotland and northeastern England through tomorrow morning. Might give it around 5 centimetres or snow or so, even to lower levels. Eventually, it will all push away into the North Sea, and then we go a little bit drier before on Friday a band of showery rain comes across the country. And then, of course, we've got Dennis to contend with on Saturday, so turns stormy and very wet across many parts of the country through Saturday. Heavy rain just carries on for quite a long time, actually, particularly for England and Wales. It could be a very, very wet spell. In fact, the rain might be more significant than the wind with Dennis. Could well be that we have more problems with flooding rather than gales, but both wind and rain are going to be a problem on Saturday. Leading to Sunday, we're keeping quite a deluge going across many parts of England and Wales. It's not till late Sunday, but rain finally gets away, and we go back into the showery and colder west to northwesterly winds. So there is potential for a lot of rain across England and Wales this weekend. And then into next week, wintry showers into the north and west in the early part of the week before things begin to go a little bit quieter around the middle of the week. And then towards the end of next week, rain begins to come back in from off the Atlantic. Rather showery in nature for England and Wales. Always cold for a little bit of hill snow across Scotland. And that's how we look as we get to day 10. So wet in the north by day 10 for Scotland and Northern Ireland, mainly dry for England and Wales. It looks like once this weekend is out of the way, things will go a little bit drier next week, or perhaps a little bit less wet. But certainly over the weekend, we are in for a lot of rain. We can't show you the ECM ensembles from the Icelandic Met Office today. They've not updated, unfortunately. So we'll go straight through to the CFS V2. So these are 500 millibar heights. Let's get rid of that. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period takes us from the 12th to the 18th of February, and the coming week we'll have high pressure to our south and low pressure will be to the north, obviously very unsettled and indeed potentially quite stormy at times as well. Week 2 is going to be the 19th to the 25th of February, low pressure again to the north, high pressure is going to be to the south. This one looks quite unsettled, but a little bit drier for England and Wales. Still very unsettled, probably for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Week 3, more of an influence from high pressure. Late in February, it's 26th of February to the 3rd of March. High pressure rate just sitting out to our southwest. Low pressure and the jet stream getting pushed back a little bit further northwards. So that is turning things quite a bit drier there for the very end of February, and then we finish up in week 4, which is the 4th to the 10th of March. Again, low pressure is to the north, high pressure is over and to the south, and we remain with those westerly winds. No change, even into the first month of spring. There's no sign of any sort of fundamental change to the pattern that we've been stuck in pretty much since the beginning of December. I just forgot to show you the CET, so just go back to that very quickly. We still don't have a finalised number for January's Central England temperature, unfortunately. Apparently there's some sort of problem at Rothamsted, which is one of the stations within the CET zone. Or there was a problem. I don't know if there's still a problem now, but there was a problem towards the end of January, and so the UK Met are trying to work out the exact temperature from the nearest stations in that area of Rothamsted, and this is all holding everything up. So eventually we will get the finalised number for January. I think it's going to come out somewhere around 6.3 or 6.4, something like that, be the final number for January, but we still don't have it. We have got February's provisional number up to the 11th. This is being updated quite a bit more regularly now. Earlier in the month, even February's provisional number wasn't being updated. This is now starting to be updated daily, so hopefully where the problem was at Rothamsted has been resolved, and things are getting back to normal, but they've still got to work out what temperatures were, I think, for January. But anyway, for February, BCT is currently standing at 6.4. It's an anomaly of 2.2 degrees above average, so another very, very mild month in this exceptionally mild winter is going on. Of course, it's a little bit colder now. This is likely to come down a little bit more, I would have thought. But having said that, we'll still get very mild days. I mean, Saturday with Storm Dennis is going to be a really mild day for much of England and Wales. But overall, by this time next week, we could well see this maybe down into the low 6s, probably somewhere around 6.0. Yes, another mild month anyway in this exceptionally mild winter. I think it's going to be a top 10 mildest winter. I don't think there's much getting away from that now. This will be within the top 10 mildest on record. I would have thought it's going to be a case of where it comes out. I don't think there's any chance of beating the mildest winter on record, though. The warmest winter on record is a very, very, very long time ago, in 1868, 1869, and I don't think there's much chance that we're going to beat that, because I think this February is having too many sort of little colder interludes, if you like, to be able to pull off the mildest winter on record. Of course, December wasn't overly mild. It was a bit milder than average, but it wasn't exceptionally mild in December. January was exceptionally mild, of course. So I think 1868, 1869 is safe. Don't think we're going to beat that. But I certainly think there's going to be a top 10 mildest winter on record. And it will be a case of seeing where we slot in within that top 10, I suppose, when we get to the end of the season. Right, that's it for your videos for today. Tomorrow we're going to week to 10-day video update. I'll include some of your snow pics in that one as well. Please keep sending them through to us on social media or email them to us at gavsweathers@gmail.com. I'll have a look at a few of those at the start of tomorrow's video. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.